Hey, yo, what up, guys? It's your boy Izzy Flow. I'm back today to give you guys another update on Reynad's The Bazaar. He recently released a new update showing actual gameplay of his game, which is awesome. He showed us a whole bunch of new mechanics. There's so much more information to talk about now and to discuss. So that's what I'm gonna do. So let's just get right into it. So the first thing I want to talk about is the hero powers. So if you watch the video where Reynad displays the mechanics, you can see a little hero power. Oh, by the way, if you haven't watched that video, definitely watch that first before you watch this video. It'll put everything into context and you'll know what I'm talking about. So near the hero, there's a little hero power, and if you've ever played Hearthstone, you know exactly what a hero power is and what it does. This game also has them as well, and the hero power will cost 2 coins, similar to like how it costs 2 mana in Hearthstone. Um, and it each hero, will have its own unique hero power. It'll have its own thing that it does. Like for example, for the mage, it gives you a little potion. And if I'm assuming correctly, this hasn't been confirmed, but I'm very confident that this is probably the case. The hero power will most likely be available at least once every single turn. It'll give you a consistent effect. So if you really wanted, you could probably use the hero every single turn if you wanted to. Um, that's about it for the hero powers. Now we know that they exist. They cost 2 coins. I mean, none of this is finalized, of course, but from what we've seen so far, everything I talk about in this video isn't finalized, but it's what we have to work off so far. What Reynad has given us. So, the hero power helps make each class more unique. Like they will already have their own set of cards that they only specifically have, but the hero power helps add on to that, gives them their own unique effect that they can use every turn. Um, it's a great value generator because if you can use it once every turn, if you don't feel like buying a card and you just want an effect instead, you can spam that hero power. Another thing that I want to talk about is the minions. So minions cost attack points to kill, and they give you some sort of effect when you kill them. Now, the reason why I'm saying that they cost attack points is because the way that it's set up is that you will have a pool of attack points to use from. So let's say you played all your cards out, and due to the effects of your cards, you have like 10 attack available for you in this turn. The way that I'm guessing that it works is if a minion costs 5 attack to kill, you can spend 5 of your attack to kill the minion and get its effect, or and then spend the remaining 5 to attack the face. So you could kill a minion, attack the face, or if you have 10 attack, you can kill one minion that costs 5 attack, and then you could kill another minion that costs 5 attack to get both of their effects. Or you could just spend all that 10 attack and go straight to the face and hit the face. So that's what I mean by like cost, because you'll have a little pool of attack that you can distribute however you feel like, and then that's how the attack will be used. Now, the reason why that's very interesting is because that allows you to play more of a control style rather as opposed to an aggro style. The reason why I'm a little bit concerned is that from what I've seen, every hero starts off with 35 health, I think it is, and 35 health is not a ton. And what we've seen so far, the minions only cost 5 attack. Like there's no lower number, there's no higher number, and 5 attack is a lot, especially when you consider that that's like a seventh of your opponent's total health. So the effect of the minion really has to be worth it in order for you to waste attack killing a minion rather than just going straight for the face. So that's my only concern. Like the minions really have to have a really big impact in order for you to spend an entire 5 attack on them, because obviously otherwise you just want to hit it straight to the face. Other some cards or effects will make you cost attack as well. What I mean by this is there's a card called Blizzard, I think it is, and it blocks your opponent's store so they can't buy any cards. And in order to buy cards, you have to spend 1 attack to break the ice, and then you could then buy the card. So it's a great way of making sure your opponent can't just hit you in the face if they want to be able to buy more cards. Um, And I'm sure there's gonna be plenty more effects just like this. So that makes me really excited because it'll show you that your attack is actually a very valuable resource. That you have to learn when to hit face, when to kill a minion, when to open up your store or what have you. So that's another mechanic that we saw in the gameplay that I'm very interested in. Oh, and the minions and some of the cards will be available to both players. So your store is specific to your own hero. You can't buy cards from your opponent's store. However, there is a card which is basically just an extra valuable coin. It's a coin that costs 2 coins. It costs 3 coins to buy, but it's worth 2 coins every time you draw it and play it. That's available to both heroes, and the minions are available to both heroes. So both heroes can attack the minions at any point during their turn. Alright, moving on. Okay, so now we have Burning and Cleansing. Now this is a very specific effect that we saw Reynad show us in the gameplay footage. So basically what it is some cards will have really powerful effects with some drawbacks to them to balance them out. So the example that we saw in his video is Pyromancer's Coin gives you 3 currency, but it shuffles a burn effect into your deck, which will clog up your deck because it's a bad card, you don't want it. But when you draw it, if you play it, it'll deal 1 damage to you. It'll give you another card. It'll cycle your deck, but it damages you in the process. So it's not exactly a good card. So Pyromancer's Coin is obviously a very powerful card. 1 coin for 3. That's pretty worth it over the long run. But if you don't like your drawback, you can buy other cards, cleanse cards, that will remove the bad cards from your deck. So if you buy a Pyromancer's Coin and now you have a burn card in your deck, you can just remove it with the cleanse card. And that'll make your deck thinner as well as stronger as a whole. Now, the cleanse effects are automated, what that means is you can't choose what card you want to remove from your deck. It'll happen automatically. Now, there's a priority system in which if you play a cleanse card, it will prioritize what the system believes to be the worst card in your deck. So if you have some good cards, some neutral cards, like the cards you start off with, like your coin, and then like a burn card, it will get rid of the burn card automatically. Now, let's say you have no actively bad cards, right? Like there's no burn cards, there's no poison cards, there's no nothing like that. Then if you play a cleanse card, it will automatically get rid of just a starting coin from your deck. That makes it kind of weird. Like, why would you want to get rid of a coin when you could buy things with it? But to be honest, it does make your deck stronger as a whole because you'll have plenty of coins anyway, and you get to draw your stronger cards faster. So it's still a good effect. It's even if you get rid of a coin. Obviously, being able to pick and choose which cards you'd want to get rid of from your deck would heighten the skill level. But Reynad's main concern with that is that it's kind of complicated and it requires a lot of steps. Especially once your deck gets thicker, like when there's a lot of cards in your deck, you'll have to scroll through a lot of different cards in order to pick exactly which one. So it really speeds up the flow of the game, and it makes things much more intuitive if the cleanse effects just happen automatically. I personally have no problem with the automatic effect. I think it's fine. I mean, especially since everybody's gonna have the automatic effect, so as long as everyone is equal, the gameplay should be fine. So I really agree with Reynad's decision on that one. I think it makes complete sense. So okay, now this part, Reynad does touch on it a little bit in his video, but just from what you see in the gameplay, this is the part that makes you really excited for this game. This is big. So the interruption and counterplay part of this game is where it really shines. Now, this, like, if you've played a lot of Hearthstone like I have, and you're looking for something new, this is the part of the game that will really open up your eyes and you'll be like, whoa, this game is something completely different. There are so many ways you can predict and then interfere with your opponents, which is something that you cannot do in Hearthstone. In Hearthstone, you can play around cards, but not nearly, but you cannot interfere with your opponent's game plan nearly as much as in the Bazaar, which is why I'm really excited for it. You can see what cards your opponent has picked. Now, that might seem like a really obvious thing, like, yeah, no, duh. But just that fact alone makes it so you can keep track of all the cards in your opponent's deck. I mean, they can keep track of all of your cards as well. So you can, you'll always know the probability they have of having a certain card in their hand at all times. You'll know which cards are in their deck, so you'll know what you have to play around, what you have to watch out for. And when you have all that knowledge, you can then come up with counter plans, or in order to disrupt what your opponent is doing and further your own game plan. Certain cards interfere with your opponent's ability to buy cards as well. So that Blizzard card I was talking about before that the Wizard has, what it does is it completely blocks off your opponent's ability to buy cards. They can't buy any cards until they break the ice by spending 1 attack point. Like, let's say they didn't have any attack points for whatever reason. Like, they just have like 5 coins in their hand or something. They can't buy anything with that. Like, it's completely useless. So that's a very powerful card. And I'm sure there's going to be many, many more cards like this. So it's going to be a real back and forth war between you and your opponent. Both of you guys are trying to mess each other up as well as trying to win the game yourselves. Right? You know what I mean? So that's super cool. Okay, now let's talk about the store mechanics really quick. I'm going to get back into that counterplay interruption part in a bit. But in order to get more into that, I just want to talk about the store mechanics. So during the mulligan phase, which is in the very beginning of the game, you can bump certain cards off the top of your store to get different cards, so you're going to have the best possible starting store. So once you know what cards you really want to buy, you can increase your chance of finding them by throwing away the cards from the store that you see that you don't want. And you can do this up to 4 times. So you get 4 bumps in the beginning of the game, and you could bump off any single card from your store. You could bump off the same section of your store 4 times, or you could do like 1 across each, or you could split up however you want. So stores don't change in between turns. So it's not like you buy whatever you want, you end your turn, and then it's randomized. No, it stays there. So that's actually really interesting, because what that means is if you want to see a new card, you have to buy a card first before you get to see a new one. And just the fact that that mechanic exists means that there's a lot of interesting things you can do with that. So one of the really interesting things you can do with that is you can make interference mechanics where you can take up one of your opponent's store slots by putting one of your own bad cards there. So that way, if they want to reopen up that store slot, they have to buy that bad card. Like it will be detrimental to them, but if they want all 4 of their slots open, or however many slots you've taken up, they have to buy that card, which is a super interesting way of messing your opponent up. Obviously, they can choose to not buy that card, but then they will only have their remaining store slots available, which is still a disadvantage to them. So I really like the fact that that's a thing that exists. This also encourages, even if there's no interference cards in play, this really encourages you to buy more cards. I mean, obviously you're incentivized to do that anyway to further your game plan, but this like really makes it, this puts in the extra edge of where the more cards you buy, the more cards you'll also be able to see, the more options you'll have. So it really rewards buying cards, making your deck stronger. So that bump mechanic where you just take off the one of the cards from your store, you can also use that in your opponent's store as well. So if your opponent has a really strong card that you know that they're going to buy because it's really central to the game plan, you can actually bump that card off so they can't buy it anymore. Now, I'm not actually 100% sure. I did watch the video twice, but Reynad doesn't make his gameplay video. He doesn't specify completely whether this bump mechanic can take place during the mulligan phase. If it does happen during the mulligan phase, I don't know how they would implement that. I'm assuming that there will be some cards or effects where you can gain like bumps. You can get better bumps, so you can bump from your own store, but then you can also bump from your opponent's store. So just know that the bump mechanic, that where you take cards off from the store, it can be used from your side as well as your opponent's side, which is very interesting. Once again, it adds a whole nother layer to the counterplay aspect of the game, which adds so many layers of depth. Like once you get into really high level gameplay, you will see just how important these counterplay options are. So, okay, here's where I want to get back into that whole counterplay thing that I was talking about. So, the reason that the Bazaar will be such a cool game and so much different from Hearthstone is because Hearthstone is a proactive game. Hearthstone, your game plan matters much more than your opponent's. You always want to further your game plan. Now, there are some decks in Hearthstone where your game plan is to react to what your opponent is doing, like control decks, like that is their whole game plan. But it is still furthering, that is still their game plan that they are actively doing. And there are many, many more decks where it's just play minion, go face. Like it's play minions on curve, hit them in the face. You want to be the one who's doing the actions. So Hearthstone really rewards that sort of game style, and it is a very proactive game. The Bazaar, on the other hand, is much more reactionary. It's not a pure reactionary game at all. Of course not. Every class will have their own inherent game plan and strategy that they will want to proactively complete. However, the fact that you can interrupt what your opponent is doing and mess up what they're trying to do makes the game way, way more interesting. If you think about chess, the best part about chess is that you can predict what your opponent will do and therefore try to mess it up or try to make sure that they can't accomplish what they want to do before that they even get the chance to do it. So since the Bazaar has much more reactions between players, you're really able to come up with far more complex game plans in order to win the game. It's not just about making sure your own plan gets there. It's about making sure your opponent's plan doesn't get there. And that adds in a whole new world of possibilities as opposed to Hearthstone. In Hearthstone, the only sort of interference or opponent interaction that you really have is where you can play around one of their cards. So depending on how they played their previous turns or or if you've been hand tracking them, you'll know which cards are very likely to be in their hand, and you can play around those cards. However, you can only really do that when you can afford to do it. What that means is if you're already ahead and it doesn't take a whole lot of sacrifice to play around certain cards. Otherwise, a lot of times you're kind of just forced to play your cards no matter what, even if they have the answer or not. You kind of just have to hope and pray, which is, and the whole hope and pray method isn't very skill testing. You just kind of have to, hope they don't have it, or if they do have it, if they have it, you lose. If they don't have it, you win. So that's not super skill testing. With the Bazaar, there's gonna be so much more options that you'll have available to you. So it's not just the hope and pray anymore. It's predict and counter attack, which is far more rewarding. If you have the know-how and if you have the cognition to know what your opponent will most likely do, and before they even get the chance to do it, come up with a way to mess that up or counterattack it, it will make the game so much more interesting, so much more fun, for sure. For beginners, this might mess them up because it will make the learning curve a little bit steeper, I predict anyway, because by adding more complexity to the game, it makes it more fun, but it takes some more time to get used to it and get really good at it. But once you see professional level play at this, I know for a fact that if the commentators know what the players are doing and they'll be able to articulate that for more casual players, the casual players will see it'll be mind games back and forth. It'll just be counter strategy, like a real war or like a chess match. So yeah, that's about it. So it was just was just a really quick update on some of the more key components that I noticed from Reynad's update video. Hopefully we get more details on all the cards, the classes, and effects. I hope to have as much information as possible. With each coming update, I get more and more excited for this game. I can tell Reynad's going to make a masterpiece. And let's hope that's exactly what it is. Let's hope the Bazaar is a masterpiece. Let's hope it comes together, as well as we're all hoping. So definitely go check out Reynad's video that he released of the gameplay. I'm sure it'll make you very excited to see it. And that's about here for me. Those were all the some theories that I'm having about the game. If you agree, if you disagree, definitely let me know what you think of all the stuff that I've said. And let's hope that the Bazaar comes out as soon as possible so we can all get our hands on it and play it. All right, I'll see you guys next time.